Bien, buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos al Museo del Prado. Unas brevísimas palabras para presentar el acto. Vamos a asistir a esta conversación entre Andrea Aguilar y nuestro invitado Jerry Saltz. Hay muchas razones que justificarían la presencia de Jerry Saltz esta tarde en el Museo del Prado. Es uno de los críticos más importantes de arte en los Estados Unidos, premio Pulitzer, pero si lo hemos invitado es por esa visión integral que tiene del arte y de su historia, más allá de estas compartimentaciones tan al uso últimamente. Hace unos años leí, mientras estaba en Nueva York, en un medio de comunicación, que Jerry había estado en una reunión con jóvenes artistas y uno de los jóvenes artistas le había preguntado que qué consejo le podían dar para encauzar su carrera, hacerse como artista joven. Y la contestación que le dio Jerry fue que cuando acabara el acto pues fuera al aeropuerto, cogiera un avión y viniera al Museo del Prado y estuviera aquí durante unos días. Creo que eso habla bien a las claras de su amor por el museo y esa visión global de la historia del arte que no entiende de fronteras arbitrarias entre arte antiguo o arte contemporáneo. Bueno, durante los próximos 60 minutos vamos a disfrutar de esa conversación con Andrea Aguilar. Muchísimas gracias. Y quiero también agradecer a Iberia y a American Friends del Museo del Prado que han hecho posible pues, este evento y a todos vosotros por vuestra asistencia. Antes de comenzar, pues cedo la palabra a Cristina Simons de American Friends. Gracias.
Thank you, and good afternoon. And just in representation of American Friends of the Prado Museum, I just want to thank both Jerry Saltz and Andrea Aguilar for this conversation. And thank you so much, Jerry, for coming to the museum. It's been a pleasure discussing with you. And I think it's a really special occasion for us to enjoy your talent and to help us renew our vision of how we see our beloved Prado. So thank you. And thank you to the director and to Curro for approaching American Friends to support this project. And also thank you, Iberia Airlines, for co-sponsoring Meet the Prado with us. That's very important. And thank you all for the art lovers that are here today and those that are connecting also on streaming. And we hope that there's many also in the United States connected. And most of all, I'd like to thank the donors to American Friends that you make all of our projects possible. Remind those that don't know us that you can get involved through the website of American Friends or with our sister institution, the Fundación Amigos del Museo del Prado. And one of the many ways that we show our appreciation for your generosity to help us support the museum is to enjoy the Friends and Amigos entrance to the Prado when you visit. So just one of the details that we have with all of our supporters. So thank you very much, and without further ado, we enjoy this.
Thank you, Cristina. Thank you. Thank you, Cristina, and the American Friends of the Prado Museum. Thank you, Director Miguel Falomir. And thank you all for being here. I am absolutely thrilled to be on stage at this beloved museum with Jerry Saltz. I admire Jerry's writing. As it's been mentioned before, he's a Pulitzer Prize-winning art critic. His writing is amazing. He's a senior art critic at New York Magazine, and he's also been a long-distance truck driver. And he's also held very different jobs that have somehow informed his way of looking at art. And his way of looking at art is to bring it closer to everybody, is to think of art as something open, direct, and accessible. And Jerry, his writing is very direct and very clear, and that's something very hard to achieve. And I say this as a writer. My name is Andrea Aguilar, and I'm a cultural reporter. Sorry, I did not introduce myself before. Jerry has spent 3 days at the Prado Museum. And I want to start right there. I want to ask Jerry, he's always said that to be at this museum and, to look at great work by old masters helps you look better and think deeper. And I want to ask Jerry how this happened this time around, and if you had to take one work of art back home with you, if the director says to you, pick one painting, which one would that be?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for coming. It means a lot to me. Before I answer that question, I just want to thank everybody for inviting me. This is any person, any art lover should realize what I said earlier, that this is the greatest museum on earth for Western civilization painting. It's unsurpassable. As I've written, the Louvre is great. They have stuff that you don't even own. They've got a Vermeer. You don't even have a Vermeer. New York even has 5 Vermeers. No, but what you have is a density of high quality art that I can't even put it into words. I'm so excited right now. You come to the Prado to be opened up, to have your life changed. You look at objects, you talk to yourself, and you change the world, and you change yourself. The Prado is a consciousness machine. It is an ecstasy machine. You will see things here you didn't know you needed to know until you know them. You will see things in great art that will penetrate your fears of art, the weird silence of art, how it never says anything. It always is this forever other object. At the Prado, you don't just have one Goya. You've got, I stopped counting. After like 75, how many do you have? 100 and something. Kuro took me up to see the drawings of Goya today. That was a life-altering experience to see how Goya was making this work just like that. First time, perfect. First thought, perfect thought. He didn't second guess himself. At the Prado, we learned to not second guess yourself. You never ask, what does Mozart mean? You listen to Mozart, and nobody goes, what did that mean? You ask, what does Mozart do? Art is a verb. Art is something that does something to you. It's happening to you, with you, in real time. All you have to do when you look at art is get very quiet inside. Put aside all of your fears. Even forget that you're hungry, that you had to go to the bathroom, that your pants are a little tight, that you have a bad neck. All of that you put out of your mind, and you begin to ask yourself silly questions. Pursue every question to its illogical, mad, possessed, crazy end, and you will start to tell yourself stories. At the Prado for the last 3 days, I have been blown away. I don't have to say the big names, but I'll start there. Velázquez knew more than Shakespeare. I'm sorry. Shakespeare's great to see, to hear, but it's hard to read. little bit hard to read. You get lost. It's a bit long.
Plot, subplot.
Yeah, well, I don't know what's going on. It's great to see it. It's theater. It's a different art. Velázquez understands the time of life, the vibrations of life, and how that might translate into paint. He didn't cover his tracks. When we look at Velázquez, Goya, all the great Spanish artists, I don't know. It's like clowns out of a Volkswagen in Spain until a certain point. The door opens up and they pour out. You know, even the lesser ones, when you start looking, they've got some crazy stuff going on. Anyway, I went upstairs today on Curio's recommendation, and I saw I was never a Rubens person. Anybody else share that with me? Yeah. A lot of flesh. It's a bit like Shakespeare. A lot's going on everywhere on the painting. He paints paintings as big as a barge, and you don't know what's going on, except there's a lot of naked women in it, because he's a man. And this time, I have to say something. How many artists are in the room? You poor bastards. You poor bastards. You're going to have a great life, but it's going to be shitty.
How does your failure as an artist informed your work as a critic? One of your, big quotes that I love is, "Make an enemy of envy, or it will eat you alive." And that applies to artists, also to writers, right? And I wonder, when one walks around the Prado, it's difficult not to feel envy for this artist, for this great artist, or for this great museum, or for, So how do you, how's your envy level?
I think that I feel no envy at the Prado.
Okay.
I'm envy of all of you for getting to live here and have the best lifestyle in Europe. I hate you for that. And I'm living in New York, which is great, but it's hell. Right now, America was always an idea more than a place. The place is the same, but the idea has changed.
So you, one of the quotes I jotted down says, "None of the art made in this period," and he's writing about end of the 20th century and the start of the 21st century, "happened under normal conditions. The context of the insanity, hopelessness, frustration, and a continual state of emergency." Now, this could also be applied to Velázquez, to Goya, certainly, and many other artists. So how do you feel walking through a museum such as the Prado and looking at the old masters? Do these ideas and concepts that you apply to contemporary art, sort of echo back in your mind?
I never went to school. I have no degrees. You think you're a loser? I'm a bigger loser than you. I started as an artist. I made art, and then
a gallery.
And I started a gallery. I curated 75 shows. I curated, the best jazz concerts of the 1970s. You weren't even here, so anyway, ever. But to make a long story short, the same demons that speak to you, and you, and you, and you at 3:15 in the morning, when you wake up and you go, "My work is no good. I'm a huge failure. I'm faking everybody out. I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't go to school. I don't know how to schmooze. I don't have enough money. I don't really know the right people. I have a bad neck." You know, I don't have hair. I don't have money. Oh, I said that again. All of you, I beg you, be brave, have courage. Don't listen to the demons. They don't know what they're talking about. And to free you up even more, I was talking to somebody in the room about this, I would like to say to all of you that however scary making art or doing whatever you're doing is, first of all, nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody. From the premier down. Nobody knows what they're doing, but they have a general idea how to do it. If you knew what you were doing, if you were Rembrandt, who you only have one painting of, boom, ha! I'm sorry, I have to give it back to this best museum. If you were Rembrandt, you would, well, that was a bad example. If you're an artist and you made a good painting and you knew what you did, you would do it every time. But every time you do something, it is different. And it seems impossible. Your job is to beat your head against the wall. You are a half-mad, smelly shaman if you are an artist or an art lover. You live at the edge of the global village. What you do has no use to the real world. And yet, our lives are totally invested in it. I guess, I mean, I'm lost in the question because I'm a nervous person, but I guess, what was the question?
So here, Jerry, here's another question for you. What's the role of an art critic in a museum such as the Prado Museum when you confront old masters? What's the message that you want to bring out? And what's the painting that you would like to take back home? You need to answer that.
Well, earlier I said, do not tell me any of the questions, but you mentioned this one question. And I'm glad that you did. Because that was too scary for me to have to choose one. And I forgot, I didn't think about it. But anyway, you chose what?
Goya's dog.
Pretty good choice. Where is that dog? You only see a head. I think that the black paintings of Goya, which are unclassifiable. They come from nowhere. They come from another dimension, another time, another place, and they're totally real and totally naturalistic. Everything about them feels knowable, but other and unknowable. The dog seems caught up in a great deluge to me. I saw the yellow as a huge tidal wave, a kind of Moby Dick of this life force that is forever pursuing you and that you are being pursued by, and yet it's man's best friend, the dog. We're supposed to take care of dogs, and yet around you in that room are people that are mad. They're crazy. They've gone wild. They beat the crap out of each other. They're not on the ground. They're not in the sky. They're floating. They're forever moving. It's like all the refugees that you see today. Private lives lived in public, of people gripping onto one another. I would take the black paintings home and hang them at the Met. And I loved those paintings in a way that I never loved before because they seemed so timely to me. Of refugees, people lost, people making up crappy superstitions and stories and cults and believing them and having certainty on the one hand and cluelessness on the other. So I would take the dog.
Thank you. Thank you for taking
and
the
the
dog.
job, I've got to keep going. I'm sorry. I know you think, oh my God, did I pay for this? No, I think that the role of an art critic When I am negative, and you're from the New York Times, and I want you to learn this too, and I think being critical of art, or whatever subject you're writing, I think being critical of art is a way of showing art respect. And right now, you guys are of a generation where criticism has left the building. Everybody loves everything, everywhere, all the time at once. And yet, when you go to art galleries, like I see 25 or 30 shows a week in New York City, I think about to being generous, 85% of what I see is shite. It's more, but I won't be mean.
But you say bad art can tell you as much as good art, and sometimes more.
Absolutely. That's being open to art. That's saying, I don't like Rubens, or I don't like this crappy show in a gallery. I know you don't like it. I don't like it either. But it has something to say to you about why you don't like it. Those qualities that you're not liking are telling you things about your taste. And I want people to pursue their own story, their own taste, write in their own voice. As afraid as you are, to hook back to that other answer, however bad you fail, yeah, it's fun to see me fail or you fail during your show. It's like, thank God England left the EU. They messed themselves up. That's good. We're happy. You know, they're not suffering in hell the way we are. However unhappy you are, however triumphant people feel at your failure, the truth is nobody on earth is ever thinking of you. Whatever you do in this life, no matter how big of a fail you make, I want artists and all of us to have the courage, the willingness to fail flamboyantly. If you're going to make a mistake, don't just like, go for your idea. Do it. I want to see how bad you really are. And I had a great 3 hours yesterday with the crappy 19th century Spanish artists up in the galleries. Mind-boggling. Their social realism, their political art, of politics we don't even know anymore, and with conventions that were not even art then. I loved those paintings. I learned a lot. Don't ask me anything. All I do is this.
I must say that Jerry's writing, and one of the things that I find very refreshing about his take on art is that he's an optimist, right? And he keeps saying art today is rising from its own ashes. And also he advocates for critics to be radically vulnerable. This is what you were saying, right? That you need to show what you think and not be afraid of it. And if you fail, at least make it like a good failure.
True.
So what about artists? Should they also be radically vulnerable, or do you wish sometimes that they wouldn't?
I wish that they would be all the time. Reveal your secrets. You don't have to say your nightmare private life, but find a code, a way to tap into those feelings. Being radically vulnerable means that you're open to the world. And if you are open to the world, my loves, the world will be open to you. What you are saying about the emergency conditions that we all feel, everybody from every country feels it. Maybe it is an end of the world. But the truth is, Velázquez and those guys all painted at the end of a world. They all lived in incredibly turbulent times. I would say that a lot of you might be obsessed with making political art. How am I going to make art about, like, you know, this or that emergency? Bad thinking. Bad thinking. A good cause does not mean good art. I'll tell you what makes good art. Originality, you big babies. Do bad art. Do good art. Do art in your own bad, good, stupid, brilliant style. That is what being radically vulnerable is. All you have to do, like the people upstairs, is try to be yourself. Goya worked under everybody. He worked for this guy, and then the government changed, and he worked for that guy. Yes, he worked for the French, as Christine pointed out to me. She's the best self-taught art historian I've ever met. Listen to her. You know, artists are sneaky bastards. They are really squirrely. They are self-interested. They're selfish. They're delusional. But I always think, aren't we all? We're all that way.
Talking about good causes and perhaps justice, right? And how many of these good causes that are fair, you know, cannot be taken to the art world. And these would bring us to some of the current trends and some observations that you've made in your writing about, shall we say, the woke world. So
yeah.
I wondered if...
Very simply, we're opening a can of worms here. You're ready to hate me, to pounce on me. A couple of things. All art is identity art. Your work, my work, his work, her work. All art is identity art. Mondrian's fucking work is identity art. You know, Malevich is identity art. Some people make identity more central to their work. That's fine by me. When we talk about political art, though, what are we really thinking? Who has made political art? In the past, I actually think it might come down to two paintings, both of which are in Madrid. It's unbelievable, this place. It's Goya's The 3rd of May with the 2nd of May. You can never separate that. And Picasso's Guernica, which is hung terribly. Anybody here from the Reina Sofia? It's on a big empty wall, and it's a big, huge wall as wide as this room. I understand that you're going to have crowds, but it emptied out the painting. All the life went out of the painting. I don't know what to do with it. Political art. All I know is when I write criticism of a woman artist, I'm called a sexist. When I write negative criticism on a black artist, I'm called a racist. When I write negative art criticism on a gay artist, I'm called a homophobe. Like I said, being critical of art is a way of showing art respect. I think that there's so little negative art criticism. My wife was good at it. I'm okay at it. Artists like it. I've talked to them in their studio. They need to hear a little bit of truth sometimes. It's not possible that everything you and I write is great. But on the other hand, in the woke art world that we're in, thank God we're in it. There'd be no women in the art world. There'd be no black people. There'd be no gay people. It would just be a lot of me. Although I am an illegal Estonian immigrant without any degrees, I mean, I have an identity too. You just can't see it. It's great that art history is being rewritten in our time. You are rewriting art history from about the period of 1900. I'm going to be loose about this. From 1900 on, rewrite it. I think at the Museum of Modern Art, you could rehang the entire collection. And if there was an Ecuador artist working as a cubist at the time, you could take out, like, somebody and put in the Ecuador artist, and you would tell the same story. You could put in a woman. You could put in a black artist. You could put in whatever your causes are, and you would tell the same story. And that's being done now in America. With all of its problems, it's really working. It's changing how I have to see, how you have to see, and that's good.
So in your writing, Jerry, you've registered the changes in the 21st century in the art world at the turn of the 20th to the 21st, and then during the 21st century. So what is the new place for museums like Prado? What do you think? What's your advice as the critic?
That's a great question. I think that the Prado, to me, I'm embarrassed to say it seems more important than ever. Why? Because quality might be a constant. What do I mean by that? 85% of the shows are bad. But 85% of the art being made at the time of Velázquez or Goya was bad too. And a lot of that art is in our museums. So art that, most of the art that was bad is lost forever. You don't even know about the 85% bad art because it wasn't kept, it wasn't saved. It's a miracle that anything made it to the present. When you start studying history, it's a miracle. But, and when you walk through museums, you pass by masterpieces upstairs all the time, masterpieces of their time, and you don't even look. It tells me the quality is a constant, and returning to this museum is like coming home, to this family collection, as Christine calls it, of its museums like this must exist. Some museums must change. The Prado changes, but it's changing in a great way. Your addition is incredible. Why? It's invisible. It works. What is good architecture? Architecture that is good works. Underneath that horrible pyramid in Paris, you have to go under an architectural destination. You go down a single file escalator. You're lost in the basement for 45 minutes. Art lovers, we need to see art. How fast? Like that. We want to see it in 1 second. I measured yesterday morning, 60 feet from the new entrance is Dürer. 60 feet slightly the other direction is Bruegel. And 100 feet from here to the back of the museum might be the greatest painting of cosmic pain and suffering ever created by our species, Van der Weyden's Descent from the Cross, which you can never stop looking at, and you can never see it. I tried to study one detail of tears within tears within tears and count the tears on Mary's cheek, and I gave up. And that's why your website is so good, because you can enlarge it. And I'm sitting in New York, going like this. Wah, 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 wah.
Now, Jerry, after looking at Van der Weyden and appreciating Van der Weyden as you do, or Velázquez or Goya, how do you then go back and look at contemporary art and not think, okay, painting is dead, criticism is dead? You pointed out that, some critics and writers, that we're all undertakers and that we are constantly saying...
We are not all. Academic critics, I'm so terrible. I think some critics are undertakers. They like to say painting is dead, figurative painting is dead, the theater is dead, the novel is dead. They are like undertakers. That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
What are your rules for writing criticism? And, one of the things is like you've said many times that you avoid cynicism. That's like the biggest sin.
What do I avoid?
Cynicism.
Yeah.
Cynics.
Okay. Before I write, I go to a show, like you go to a show. I might go to your phenomenal, I can't pronounce it, but it's the show downstairs from the polka show. What is that called?
Darse la mano.
That. I'm American. What do you want? That show had art. It blew my mind. It was art that I didn't know anything about. I knew about it, but we're never allowed to see because it isn't high taste. The Prado shows it because it is great. It's unbelievable. And I feel pretty good about the show. But then I leave and I take the subway home and I'm thumbing through a catalog this thick and I think, I have to write this in 6 days? What the hell? I have to quit. I can't do this. I don't have anything new to say. And I go home and I worry to my wife like you do. You worry about writing. I can't write. What am I doing? Writing is hard. Everything all of us do is hard. It's not as hard as being a bricklayer or a truck driver or a secretary, but it's hard in its own way. And then I have no time to read the catalog, and I then have to set aside the demons that have told me all those things and start putting my ass on the line. Try to write a direct sentence. Try to make a direct mark. You must begin. Work comes from work. I'm not interested in artists that go, I have this great idea. And I go, I don't care about your ideas. Your idea's like a belly button. Everybody has one. I was going to say it in a much naughtier way. I don't care about your idea. Your idea is beside the point. Artists do not own the meaning of their own work. I do not own the meaning of what my work is. I then set to work. I write as fast as I can. And I think, after the third day, I think, I'm bulletproof. Nobody could write a review this good. And I go to sleep, and I wake up the next morning, and I turn on my computer, and I think, here's the genius. And then I read it, and I go, what is this? This is nothing. This is somebody clearing their throat and showing off. And what the hell am I doing? And now the time is shorter. The point is, write in your own voice, get it out, never miss a deadline. Never. Deadlines are sent to you from heaven via hell. You must make your deadline. Artists especially, because you're always making up bullshit excuses why you can't do it. I don't care if people don't have enough money to cast it in bronze. If you can't cast it in bronze, make it out of paper mache. Make it out of cardboard. Make it any way you can make it. Do not complain. No one cares.
Good. And you have two mottos, right? One is a quote from Bob Dylan. Do what you have to do and do it well.
You do what you must do and you do it well. You try to be your own best version of yourself. You will hate that self by the night, but you want to wake up the next morning and say my other motto. I'm not going to fuck it up this time. And you might be free. There's no better life than a life lived in art. That means as an art lover, the way we are, as an artist, as a musician, as a historian, as a supporter of the arts. There's no better life. When I go back to New York, I was worrying, can I turn away from the art that is here? And I was sad about it. This afternoon, I was thinking, how can I ever go back again to my art world, which is great. It's my family. I go, anyway, I realized, no, this art, my life has changed again from spending 3 days here. My life is different. I am different. I will come back with new references, new ideas, and so it's all the same. Everything we do, just do it well. Do it as well as you can.
One of the things that marks your work and your approach to art and to art criticism is your take of social media. And you've written about it, influence of social media, the effect of sidestepping gatekeepers and fostering ardent fandom, debate and cross-pollination, and a new kind of citizenship. And it's this fearless attitude that you have where, I don't know, some people are more self-conscious or post more on Instagram or more worried about, how they're going to be perceived. But,
Babies, don't be afraid of people not liking your posts. Have you ever seen the comments? How many of you have seen my idiot Instagram? Thank you. I have 500 new assholes torn for me every day. People say why you're wrong, why you missed this, why you're stupid. And I think there's a grain of truth in every criticism for 2 levels. One is, if that's how you took what I said, how could I make how I say things clearer? Okay. So that's on me that I failed to make you see the world the way I see it. And the other is, nobody can say anything as bad about you as you say about yourself.
Okay.
Nobody. The stuff you tell yourself about yourself, nobody can touch that. So don't be afraid. I hope that artists post. And don't just post your own work. That's boring. I'm sorry. You have to post things you like, things you see. No meals. I'm sick of people. They say, I was in China, and they show you a plate. And you go, where is China? You're showing me a plate of prawn? Anyway, and children are fine. I hate children. But I'm the godfather to many, so you should post your children. Cats are good, dogs no good. So I want to say this about being a social media art critic. I used to be on the Power 100 lists in all of the magazines. And it's cool to be on them, because people will go, hey, you're on the Power 100 of Art Review, and you go, oh, really? I hadn't noticed. What number was I? And one year, about 10 years ago, Art Review magazine wrote, Jerry Saltz is this, that, and the other. But if he continues trying to practice art criticism on social media, he will never be on these lists again.
Wow.
And I thought, you can kiss my ass goodbye. And I never looked back. I thought, yes, in social media, we've done something interesting. As stupid as it is, and most of us are I look at like people falling down. I like car crashes. You like cooking videos. Tell me some of your obsessions. What are some of yours? What?
Cat memes.
What?
Cat news.
Cat. My wife watches dogs and cats. What else do people watch? Surfing? Wow. Cool people. They're much cooler than we are. What else? What are you obsessed with? It should be embarrassing.
Stairways.
What? Stairways?
Yeah.
I'll try to look into that. Yes, social media is a brain drain, but social media got around the gatekeepers that were keeping all of us and all of you out. It's not the one art critic or the one person speaking to the many in a pyramid anymore. I learned on social media by accident that you make it, instead of the one speaking to the many, it's the many speaking to one another. You can make communication reasonably horizontal. When I comment on the museum, the Prado thing on Wednesdays, I wish you had English subtitles on the other days. They're talking about the greatest art ever made, and I can't read it. But people are always writing back. There's a comment thread. I learned this on social media, that the many can speak to one another. And that's what it is. I'm just as nervous as anybody.
It's interesting because you're married to an art critic, to Roberta Smith, who I admire also.
She's the best. She's the best art critic alive. Far better than I am.
So I mean that sort of conversation about art and about art criticism, you already had it. So the idea of opening up and being so open about it on social media and being so exposed, what have you learned besides, that you are a conversation enabler, let's say?
What have I learned? Everything that I've learned, I've learned on social media and from my wife, Roberta, and from art. Those are my three teachers. What I've learned on social media is from what all of you have commented. I can't believe your ideas. If you are at the Prado and you aren't a weirdo and you look at the person next to you and you go, what do you see there? What they will tell you will blow your mind. And it will be a beautiful opening to a conversation. And I get that on social media. I get it from my wife, and I get it from myself when I talk to myself about art. I don't go to artist studios. I don't like going to artist studios.
Too much pressure? Too close?
Well, first of all, you have to shake their hands hello. And they've been up all night, and they've got like snot on their hands. And then I get a cold 3 days later, and I'm pissed off, and I get pneumonia. Also, I want to see art the way everybody sees it. I want to see art in the flesh, in an open, public space. I don't want any clue about what I'm seeing.
You don't want to be recognized as an art critic, or you want to give up, part of that role?
It's a problem. I'm going to speak, don't tell anybody this, but yes, I love being recognized. We all do. What can I say? Being famous is cool, but I'm not famous outside the art world. When I walk down the street of New York, I take 2 40-minute walks a day because I don't do anything. Like you, well, you're fun. Like, if people in Spain, I can't even talk to you. You have too much fun. But I go to galleries and I work. That is all that I do. I live like a hermit. I don't go out to dinner. I don't go out to any opening parties. When you are all going to the opening, I know you don't believe me, but it's true. When you're going to the parties, you used to, well, that happens. Anyway, I'm sitting having a slice of pizza with my wife, and we're talking about the art we saw. We're making notes. We go home, and we do our work. I don't remember how I got to this point.
Jerry, how did your work as a long-distance truck driver help you become a critic?
When I exiled myself from the art world, when I was an artist, I was a successful artist at 27. I was selling my work. My work was written about in magazines. I moved to New York, and demons spoke to me. And I listened to the demons. I've said to you, I don't want you to listen to the demons because this will happen to you. Do not allow this to happen to you. I'm happy. I wouldn't change a thing, but it's hard. It took me till I drove a truck.
And you started writing when you were in your late 30s and early 40s.
I learned to write from our school yearbook in the art world. Have you ever seen a magazine called Art Forum?
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. I read it every month, and I never understood a word. It's 55 writers writing to 155 powerful curators and directors who then hire each other, and they go to museum panels and stay in fancy hotels, and I get envious when I see them on Instagram. That's the way it used to be. Social media changed that. It made it where everybody could do what they needed to do. Anyway, I taught myself to write badly in the trucks. I would read because I was so miserable. I was an art lover, and I hung out in the art world, always, but I wanted to be in the art world. So one day I called myself an art critic. At a party, somebody said, "What do you do?" And I went, "I'm an art critic." And they went, "Cool." And I thought, yeah, that's all there is to it. Anyway, I started to write. As you know, writing is the worst art. Writers, can I get a...
Yes.
It's a nightmare. I trained myself to listen to music when I write. Can you listen to music?
No.
I could listen to anything. Norwegian death metal I could listen to. It can be blasting in my head. And with words, with lyrics, because I spent years alone. My wife was in her office, I was in mine.
Never in a newsroom, I gather.
No. Do you write in a newsroom? Well, that's good to have company. It's hard.
When they're, talking on the phone to their mothers, like in the subway.
You kids call your parents too often. How often do you call your parents? Every day? That's too often. You need to have your own nervous, and I'm sorry, mothers and fathers in the room, you need to have your own nervous breakdowns on your own. I don't want your parents to get you through this. You can call them at most
once every 3 months.
No, once a week is max. And if you're an immigrant, you're allowed. But other than that, no.
Okay, so I think we're close to the end, as you've all...
If you want to ask questions, I'm open.
So, Jerry's a great speaker, but he's also a great writer. So I asked him if he could read an extract of his writing, a little paragraph. And then he's going to be book signing. So you'll have a chance to talk with him if you line up and get your book signed. And I strongly recommend that you do. Anyway, so I'm going to leave it to him to read this little extract. And as I said, he will be signing books. Thank you all very much.
I, too, want to thank you very much. I want to thank you for having me. This has been phenomenal, life-changing, life-confirming. I'm an older person now, and so everything I do, I think, this could be the last time that I do this. I don't see myself as old. I'm 74, but inside, I'm still, how old are you, like 35? Yeah, but inside, you're 40 years old. You're no older than that ever on the inside. You look at an old person and you think, they look old. I look more like the young guys, you know? So I have those thoughts. A life lived in art is the best life anyone can have. Having children in the art world is the best life you could give to a child. They'll fuck up your life. But you're going to give them the greatest gift of all time. I want to encourage everybody to keep repeating to what I said. Make an enemy of envy. By that, envy is the knife that you hold to your own throat. It looks out at the world and compares yourself to the world. Don't do that because it's a loser's game. It's very destructive. Don't complain. Cynicism I hate because cynics think they know things. It's like when I meet a right-wing Trump supporter in America, they think they know things. And I always think, you don't know anything. Nobody knows anything about the trauma, the boredom, the life, the past, your health statuses, the miracles that you've experienced, and the losses that you've suffered. Nobody knows that. Each of us are these very full universes, as complex as the universe itself, each one of us. And cynics will make you, first they'll bum you out, because there's no opening to talk to them. You just kind of give up. And the next thing they do is they make you sleepy. You just think, So beware, because it'll kill you, it'll kill your work, it'll kill your spirit. I want to encourage everybody to work. That's job one. Job 1A is to be able to embed thought in material. Embed thought in material. What do I mean? You must be able to embed your thinking into your sentences, your feelings into your paintings, your music, your writing, your whatever you do. That is what you're seeing upstairs. People's inner lives embedded and empowering like a burning bush. The burning bush of the Bible put off more energy than went into lighting the bush on fire, but the bush burns forever. El Greco has a crazy one. Go find it. It's upstairs in the collection, not the show. A burning bush puts off more energy than goes into making it. That's what great art does. When you see Hamlet, it is you seeing a play you've never seen before, even if you've seen it 10 times. It is different, it changes, it's great in ways that you had no idea, and your Hamlet is your Hamlet. My Hamlet is mine. Oscar Wilde once said, when we read a book, when you look at a painting, you are seeing yourself. You are the author of everything you see. I want to offer that to you before I read my work, and then also say, I want you to go out. I am painfully psychopathically bashful. I cover it by being outgoing. But the minute I'm alone, I'm back in my own bubble. I won't go out. I don't do anything. I don't see people. I've learned to manage my craziness. That is your job as a person too. You have to manage your own craziness and yet find a way to be in the world. You cannot do this on your own. Artists and art lovers are like vampires. They must be with other vampires all the time. All the time. You must commune with the ancestors, like in the Prado, but you must commune with your colleagues.
Contemporaries.
You have to go out. You have to go to openings. I know you're shy and you're terrified and you feel like you're the biggest loser in the room. The good news is everyone feels that way. Even the cool person over there that everybody's talking to. And on social media, follow me. Comment on a thread. I get 30,000 DMs like a week. But I look at them sometimes when I'm scared. And I respond. I'll comment back to you. We are in the same family. So thank you, Madrid. Thank you, the Prado, for being the greatest on earth of what you do. Don't ever change, but change. Thank you. This, I'm being asked to read it. When I read my own work, I think, who wrote this? It's like Bob Dylan said, a song comes to you. You do not know where it came from. It was given to you. You just have to get out of the way and let the song come. And yes, you'll be afraid of the next one, but that's not what we're talking about. It's trying to be in the moment. So this was about museums, and I said, but we go to the Prado, we go to museums for a different reason, to get away from the crowd and tap into the collective unconscious. In those places, in those halls, we step outside of time into something almost primitive or unknowable and timeless. I'm not saying art is sacred, only that art does something somewhat indefinable. In a sense, the museum is an ecstasy machine. A building filled with wormholes and time warps, extrasensory switching stations, and ecto-transporters, whatever that was. I think I was thinking of those things in Star Trek and all the science fiction, because you can go upstairs and you can find yourself in another dimension like that. And then you're back again and you've changed. I got carried away here. Psycho circuits and invisible diving bells. That's what a museum is. Museums are strange places where people stand in front of inanimate objects, talk to themselves, and experience rapture. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for reading. I know it was hard.
Thank you. Thank you. I will not personally inscribe any books because it takes too long, but we can all take selfies if you want a selfie. And you can say you know me, you'll get accepted into graduate school or get rejected, and we'll talk online. So thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, God, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm so sorry that I talked on and on.